Welcome to another daily recap. Today is Thursday, April 4. It's almost 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern, and there are a number of levels that we will use to trade the E-minis. However, in the pre-market, the spiders have climbed up to above 523. They're right at 523 now, up from where they closed yesterday around 519.40 or so. So I don't have anything higher than 526, and there's a lot of numbers. And like before, just treating these cautiously. They could go higher, they could fall down, and they're all pretty close together, just the way they came out of the calculator. So treating them with caution, one or two contracts at each level. Just to get a visual of the daily chart, there's kind of this channel you can kind of eyeball here that they've been constrained against or within for quite a while, all the way back. I don't know, you can make the case when they started defining this channel, and they're in the middle of this. So 523 is about right here. And so that's where they are in the pre-market. And, anything can go in the middle of this. They're still very bullish. In the weekly we've been looking at a few times, they're above that line in the sand, but the monthly chart is starting to have more significance now in terms of timing. So of course we just started the April, so a lot can happen this month. They could go a lot higher, but there could be an indication. We'll just take a look throughout this month at what's going to happen on that chart, and then scale down to the smaller time frames to pull out smaller base hit trades. And as usual, we will circle back around to take a look at all the trades taken in the E-minis based off of these levels after the market closes. Well, it's after 9 o'clock, and what do we have here? So I'll be honest with you, I didn't see most of this happen in real time. It was around 11:30 when I closed up shop. In fact, I jumped out of a trade early because things just didn't feel right. And I'll talk through that a little bit more. That trade would have worked out, the first trade, the long trade. I came in here. I'll show you the recording of this in the morning, but like yesterday, I had somewhere to be. I wanted to kind of close up shop around 11:30, and I was pretty much away. I had a dinner engagement, and I did look at my phone at some point while this was falling, and I was kind of excited to get back to analyze what was going on here, but didn't take any trades here, which I guess you could say was luck, but at the same time, all during this time up here, it was just agonizing. There was no real indications what was going on. Very low volume. And I did notice after the fact that around a quarter after 12, which is about right here, through about 2 o'clock, there seemed to be some pretty steady selling going on. Now, I wouldn't say it was like professional volume selling, but it may have caught my attention. I'm not saying that I would have said, okay, this thing is going to fall out. I'm going to ride this thing down, like sell two contracts and trail them all the way down. That's not the way I operate. I like to get reactions off these levels, and they just didn't work. Well, you see there's a little bit of reaction on some of these levels, but not enough to trade. This would have been a max loss limit day. In fact, that's how I'm calculating the levels on the regular tracking log, because yes, you would have got a base hit here if you waited this out patiently, because there's really no reason to jump out. It was just more of a feeling that I had based on everything I'm looking at. Nothing really looked quite right. And I wasn't even at my computers after 11:30. So I didn't see any of this happen until just probably about 15-20 minutes ago when I got back in front of my screens. So we'll roll the recording of the live trade, and we'll talk through that some more. So this recording of the trade here starts right at 9:45, as you can see in the clock. So I'll start playing this. And what I'm looking to do is buy if they got down to 522.65, or to sell if they got up to the level of 524.07. Well, they came down first, 522.65, and triggered the order. And I'll scrub ahead so we can see. So I had a base hit profit target of 4 ES points per usual. And to this point, everything looks relatively normal. It wasn't terribly low volume. It's kind of dried up later in the day. So here's my reference levels. They got really close. And this is kind of what I guess you could say, eked me out a little bit, is they got up to within a tick several times of the profit target. You see me move this up because I was like in the 5 points or so, because I was looking at this thinking, okay, if they can just break through this level, then they're going to go higher. Like I could take more than just 4 points. That was my idea. So like I'm sitting here looking at basically the equivalent of 5,300 in the ES, and thinking, well, if they go through, then I'll even pull this up higher. I was thinking I could get several more points than just 4 points, but they kept coming up short of the 4-point base hit. And I've said before in other videos that the SPY tends to move in like 40-cent increments. I mean, you'll get bigger moves, 8 to 12 points or so in the ES. Like a longer term move, but they kind of stair step oftentimes in 4-point moves. But volume started drying up quite a bit. And I'm looking at this. I even moved it up higher thinking, okay, if they can just get above 5,300, the equivalent of this level here, then they would go higher. But at some point, wait, I'll just back up. After getting really close, and even this high here was just a tick away from triggering that trade if I had it back at the 4-point base hit profit target, if that makes sense. So I just jumped out. You saw me jump out before they got back to the entry point. It's almost 10:30 at this point. I kept an eye on it, kept this recording going for a while, but I basically closed up at 11:30 and didn't even look at any screens. I was away from my computer for the rest of most of the day. Well, doing other things, but I got back onto my trading screens at like I said, just a little while ago, within like the last 30 minutes. And I've been analyzing this a little bit. So I'll scrub ahead just to show you that they messed around, and by the time I left, they would not have scored the base hit. It was just very agonizing, just hanging around here at this level with no volume. And ultimately, they did go higher. It would have scored a base hit on this, but you saw what happened in the full day. They pretty much just fell out of bed. Let's go back and look at that one more time. So again, I'm not saying that you would have traded every single level normally and try to buy as they fell through this, but the only indication I had and was, like I mentioned before, was around 12:15 through about 2 o'clock. I mean, you can't see it here, but I have another indicator that kind of gives me a general idea of whether professionals are buying. There's like some kind of buying or selling program going on. So there seemed to be a pretty consistent selling going on that was maybe slightly above what amateurs would buy in terms of lot sizes. But I don't know. I mean, like I said, I'm not saying I would have wrote this down, but one thing I would have done probably, should say probably, is when I have the subscription going, just to let everyone else know what I'm doing. I'm basically jumping out because things don't feel right. I jumped out early of that one trade. It did work, would have worked out, but I'm perfectly happy just to take the 1 point and move on and not just be a spectator as they fell out of bed here. Because who's to say that they would have rebounded on any of these? Anyway, because all the levels are important. But today it was just strange. It was relatively low volume and not the kind of professional activity that I'd like to see this type of activity. So you can't really ignore the big picture. We'll take a look at the daily chart. This is the same chart we looked at this morning with that channel still drawn on here, daily chart. So look what they did today. I mean, this is the biggest down day they've had in quite some time. And it could be a fake out just like anything else. Still over, it's bullish or above the 50 period and 100 and 200. Just broke through the 20 period move average, but it's not the first time that's happened, and they rebounded. So anyway, just very interesting. That's could be a shot across the bow, or it could just be a fake out, but don't lose sight of the big picture is kind of the point here. And as I mentioned, this I'm just going to treat this like you would have got the base hit on the first level and then averaged in on the next one as it kept falling, and just eventually you would have hit a 20 ES point max loss, and that would have been it. And the other levels on the bottom of that chart that we looked at wouldn't even have come into play because you would have been out at that point. But like I said, that's not what I did because it didn't feel right. And here's the tracking log showing what I did. Basically just got in for this trade, got pretty close to my base hit. You saw that happen several times. And when I just jumped out when they got back to the entry point, so like literally 1 point. It was less than $50 after commissions. But that's it. I'm happy to take that instead of a big loss. And when the subscription is live and I have this commentary going like behind the scenes on the membership side, then I'm just going to let people know what I'm doing. If you're interested, and it's trader's choice, but I just had a few reasons at the middle of the day that I was willing to step back and just watch what happens and not jump in and risk any real money. So it was kind of good in a way that I was away from my computer, but that's the way it ended today, and it's going to be interesting tomorrow, last day of the week. And, it all remains to be seen. Definitely want to be careful. There could be some monster rallies as the bulls try to push price back up. I don't doubt that they have the juice to do that, but you can't ignore such a big down day like this. So thanks for watching. We will circle back around tomorrow and do it all over again. Thanks for watching.